Yo, what's going on, fam? It's your boy Tahir Johnson, and we're back with another week of the Cannabis Diversity Report. Today, I have my friend Kim Napoli on today. She's the Senior Director of Corporate Social Responsibility and Community at Parallel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
It's good. It's definitely good to have you on this morning. Good to see you.
Thank
Um, for, for those out there that may not know, Parallel is one of the largest privately held multi-state cannabis operators in the country. And Kim, we're definitely glad to have you on. So, can you tell us just a little bit about Parallel, and then also about yourself? What inspired you to get into the cannabis industry?
How much time do we have?
Hey,
Just
tell it all. We got as much as you need.
great question to open with. So Parallel is a multi-state operator. We have operations in Massachusetts, in Florida, in Nevada, and Texas, and we were actually just licensed for medical operations in Pennsylvania, where we'll have the Good Blend brand of stores for patients down there. It's been a long time that we've been building this up over the past couple of years. Actually, it feels like a long time. Hasn't really been that long, but such as the life of cannabis. I actually come to the cannabis industry by way of hemp. In 2006, I opened the Hempist in Harvard Square. The Hempist is a clothing and accessory store, all hemp products. So food, paper. We used to sell pipes back when that was a big thing. Now they're everywhere, even at gas stations. In 2016, I became the director of outreach for the campaign to legalize cannabis. We were successful here in Massachusetts. After that, I joined Meta and later became one of the first appointees to the Cannabis Advisory Board, serving as Governor Baker's expert on minority business development. So really the work that I've done has been to, one, legalize cannabis, normalize hemp, and also to ensure equity in every step of cannabis legalization and regulation. And that's what we're doing here today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, and I know we talked a little bit about this before we came on, but one of the things that I really love is to see somebody like you that has a background in doing things in social equity, like leading this type of things for a company, because I think if you're going to talk about social responsibility, then social equity, especially in the cannabis industry, has to be a key part of that.
Absolutely.
And and so, especially, like you said, you were really active there on the ground in Massachusetts legalization from the beginning. Can you give for different states, like, so I'm from New Jersey. I actually just got back from New Jersey. I was testifying at the state Senate hearing about cannabis legalization that we had earlier this week. Like, for newer markets and people like that, what type of advice can you give them, like, as the industry is getting ready to come, kind of come in line?
My first, and I think probably the most significant piece of advice that applies to every stage of legalization is just to be part of the conversation. You mentioned you were testifying, and that's one excellent way to do that. But once isn't enough. It's something you need to keep at. You need to make sure that your voice is heard. If it's not, I feel like you waive your right to complain that things didn't go the way you wanted them to, or that they're not going well. If you don't give them that input, how are they supposed to know? Build the industry that you want to be a part of. So absolutely being part of the conversation is essential. If we're talking about things like equity and diversity and inclusion, that's something that also needs to be discussed from the beginning. And I think it's a mistake to assume that those are one size fits all solutions, that it really depends on the community. So you need to hear a lot of different voices and get a lot of stakeholder input from the various people who are going to be impacted by the rules and regulations of legalization as it relates to equity. So being part of the conversation and finding stakeholders to represent the differences that exist in the community.
Right. And I think that's important too, because and especially in my role, I think it's something that comes up a lot, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And especially social equity, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're all related, but they're three different things. And social equity, people often even ask, like, what does social equity mean? So, like, from your perspective, could you talk a little bit about each of those different things, and what do they mean, and, like,
Sure.
how does it fit into the culture of what you do?
Absolutely. So diversity and inclusion, I've heard it described, and I like this description. It's the easiest one. Diversity is everyone being invited to the dance, right? Inclusivity is being asked to dance. So you're not just there, you're not just being representative, like I showed up, I'm here, everybody's here. It's being included in what's happening while you're there. And those are two very different things when you look at it. So diversity is great, inclusivity is better. The two together are what makes the pie delicious. And then social equity, or equity in general, is giving people the tools that they need that are tailored to their skills, their deficits, their strengths, their weaknesses, so that everyone can have the best shot at the same successful result. So it's, again, not a one size fits all. It's something that takes a lot of thought, takes care, it takes continued effort to really tailor and hone in on what it is that's going to make everyone be their most successful. Is that is that solid?
It does. No, it does.
Yeah.
That's a great explanation. And one thing I just thought of, and I realized when I did your introduction, I forgot to say Esquire, so I got to make sure I stand with some respect on your name.
That's all right.
Really, one thing I'm interested to find out, especially with you. Hey,
here's baby.
Hey, baby girl. With you doing all of this, how does like your background as an attorney like help you with what you do and even what you've done in the past, like working on legislation and things like that?
Sure. So as an attorney, I practice employment law, obviously cannabis regulatory issues, community things happening in the community. This is baby Shay. Say hi. There you go. She likes to be part of everything.
Hey, home. My kids love to be a part of it too.
So all of those things, the specific areas of law, I'm going to flip off my camera here. Okay. All of those areas of law are absolutely helpful in working in cannabis, understanding employment, the things that affect or impact employment, help when you're talking about diversity and inclusion, right? How do you do this and stay compliant? How are you not breaching any legal boundaries, and how are you doing it in a professional, practical manner? But what I think more helped me understand and operate in the legal space is my experience in law school and getting to becoming a lawyer. Just the way that you're required to learn in law school, and this is going to sound like an ad for people to go to law school, but it teaches you to think differently. It refines the way that you understand it and create your own critical thought that really helps you to tackle the many problems that can come up. But in the cannabis industry, anyone who works in the industry will know that it's nothing but problems. There's something new every day. It feels like you're running around with your hair on fire, and it requires a level of ingenuity and spontaneity and the ability to really think around an issue that I really feel like I benefited from, and I gained it from my experiences in law school.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, and speaking of what you hit on a little bit about doing things in like an ethical and legal way, because, in each state, there's different laws and different things that impact how you have to do business. But kind of speaking of like, just from a statistical standpoint, right? Statistics, people of color are almost 4 times as likely to be arrested for cannabis, even though we use it at equal rates. So like when you look at trying to create policies to give opportunities from those people, from those communities, how do you do that from a corporate responsibility, like plan, like in an actual functional way?
Mm-hmm. So, well, when you're thinking about bringing social equity back to, or correcting the harms from the war on drugs, we'll say, you have to look at what are the impacts of that war. And certainly arrest is an impact, incarceration, but then there's the ongoing effects of the arrest. There's the inability to get a job. There's the inability to get student loans or find public housing. And these are all things that are essential to living. And if you don't have those, you cannot be living in a socially equitable world, right? There's no equity there if you can't get a job, find a house, or feed yourself. So those things, I think, are ways to begin to bring in social equity. So if you look at like getting people jobs, right? Making sure that people have an education, developing skills for people who may want to come into the cannabis industry. That's one of the things that we work on in our social equity efforts at Parallel through our brand Netta in Massachusetts with the Cultivated program. But really understanding what the negative impacts of the war on drugs were, and then attacking and approaching it from a way that's going to really impact those harms. That's the general approach that I think is a good way to start when you're looking at correcting and supporting social equity in the cannabis industry.
Right. And you know, to that point, you just mentioned the cultivator program. I know you guys also I saw that you guys also had another grant where you guys were supporting like social equity and economic empowerment operators in Massachusetts, as well
Yes,
as some other grants like for sickle cell research. Oh, and then the partnership with Can Inclusive with my homegirl, Mary Pryor. You know, and we also partnered with them and supported the accountability list. You know, and I think that that's something that's important across the organization. But just tell us a little bit more about some of the different specific programs, you know, that you guys have that you're right now.
So the cultivated program I just mentioned, so I'll start there. That's one that is in partnership with a number of operators in Massachusetts, including the Massachusetts Association of Community Colleges, the Commonwealth Dispensary Association, Representative China Tyler, a number of individuals who are really just wonderful people who came together for this excellent purpose to create it's a course where people who are from areas of disproportionate impact, who have drug arrests on their criminal record, they can come and get free expungement of their record, which is a fairly tailored, individualized process in Massachusetts. It involves kind of a lot of back and forth to the courthouse. So we help them with that for at no cost to them. If eligible, then they can be admitted to the actual cultivated program where they become a fellow. They will receive education in cannabis curriculum. Then they will get an in-house, apprenticeship at a partner dispensary like Aneta, where they will do all the things that help them to learn exactly how to be a skilled worker in the cannabis industry. If and when they graduate successfully, they then are eligible for full-time employment at one of our partner dispensaries. So all of this is for the purpose of taking out the guesswork of, is this going to be a good job for me? Am I going to work at a place that I like, that I'm going to learn something? Helping people really move through all of that at no cost to them. There could be subsidized healthcare, there's transportation afforded, benefits. It's really a great program for people who are wanting to get involved, who have been in a position where they were at a disadvantage, really following impacts of the war on drugs. This is designed to lift those individuals up and give real opportunity. So that's one. I can pause for questions if you have any on that, or I can move to the program.
And so, yes, so here we have our social equity scholarship program, and we have a number of people in the community that are operators as well as applicants, and a number of them are from Massachusetts. So if someone is a cultivator or someone who's applying for a cultivation license in Massachusetts and they want to learn how to take advantage of that, you know, how would they go about that? Where do they start?
So this is it's for people who are not necessarily there yet, not license holders, more folks who are looking for employment opportunities.
Got you. Okay, employment. Got you. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I will pause and add that there is something called the Social Equity Program in Massachusetts that's actually run by the Cannabis Control Commission. That helps people who are in that same kind of bubble of disproportionately impacted, and it gets them the training if they want to become a licensed cultivator or a licensed retailer or processor. It also helps with employment. It's a little bit different of a program, but follows a lot of the same pieces. It just doesn't have that apprenticeship piece. So that is a rolling application. If you go to the commission's website, that's where your friend can go to apply for that. And it does, if they become a social equity program member, they get expedited application review once they do submit for a license. And they're also falling into a group that gets an exclusivity period on the delivery only licenses that just went live a few months ago. So there's some real benefits to being a social equity program participant in Mass.
Right. And again, like I was saying, I know you have some other programs that you're like doing to support social equity. Tell us about some of those.
Sure. So the Social Equity Security Grant Program is a really exciting one that I came up with a couple of years ago, actually on 4/20, 2018, and has been in the works for a long time. And so it's really exciting that this is launching now. And really just, generally it's designed to give any social equity program participant or economic empowerment licensee, both have to be at least provisionally licensed they can apply for and receive a grant for up to $25,000 to help offset the cost of security equipment for their operation. So this is one way that we feel is really going to help with a specific licensee, one or two specific licensees, and with the industry overall. Security is not something that should have to come last, right? We're all looking at a year where we've seen profits drop, margins drop, jobs be lost, lots of difficulties, and yet business must go on, right? We're still trying to make that money. We're still trying to earn a living. You have to cut costs when you can, but we think that security is something that shouldn't come at that, shouldn't be subject to the axe. So it's a really great program. It's live now as an application. It's something we're really excited to see.
Nice. And then how about the one on sickle cell? Because that is I know in like medical research, because I know that in particular is like an illness that definitely plagues like Black communities. So that's, I think it's important to see you guys like putting forth some things to do medical cannabis research on that.
Sorry, I was on mute. We have part of our license. We're working with the University of Pittsburgh sorry, I'm gonna have a child come in a second. We're working with the University of Pittsburgh to create research that will help solve for the symptoms associated with sickle cell disease. The sickle cell disease is something that disproportionately impacts Black and Latino Americans and throughout the world, but specifically in America, the rates are really staggering. And when we talk about social equity, it would be a mistake to not talk about health equity. If you don't have health, you don't have anything. And as someone who's now in a position where my child's health is impacted, it's true. It's the most essential thing that we all have. So to be able to provide a service that can change and help and solve problems in so many lives, particularly in communities of color, with cannabis is just so amazing. So I'm really excited that we'll be able to start bringing this research to life in Pennsylvania and to truly start helping patients in those areas and throughout the country and the world. It's something that everyone should really pay attention to and look forward to seeing, because it's very meaningful work that we're doing here.
Right. And as somebody that's been around the industry for quite a while, like seeing all this different stuff, how it progresses, what do you kind of see as the future of the industry, like where it's going?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's a broad question.
Mm-hmm.
I think
just answer however large or small you want to. It doesn't have to be as grand.
I see cannabis research really becoming the future. The research that we have yet to discover and see the benefits of is everything. That's where the future is. We will have therapies that are tailored to specific illnesses as we begin to understand the genetics more of cannabis. We have, there's thousands, maybe millions of cannabinoids in the plant. We have understanding of a couple hundred. And we talk about cancers. There are specific genetic structures and components of cannabis plants that can impact the cytology of cancer cells. And those two things can interlock together to potentially cure cancer or have, reductive effects on it. And those things, like, we can't wait for that. I think that's now, but we're getting there and we're closer than we ever have been. So in my mind, the future of cannabis is all in the research.
Right. Absolutely. And, for somebody like you that's been in the industry for a while, what advice do you have for other, women or people of color that want to get involved in the industry, or even somebody like you that's an attorney that wants to transition like from another professional, kind of lane, if you will, to their skills to the industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's that answer changes a lot, and I've given a lot of different answers to that question. First, it was network, and I guess the answer still is network. There's always someone that or you can talk to, or that you used to know, or you will soon know, who is involved in the cannabis industry. People change careers. There is newly legalized states. God, it seems like every day some sort of change, and that spells opportunity. So And look outside your state. You know, we used to think locally, like my state now has medical everywhere. You could be thinking about national companies you could either form or become a part of that you can really maximize on your ability and your opportunity to take big steps forward without crawling. And don't ever sell yourself short. You know, you're worth more than people will tell you you're worth. So, but you got to do the work. But with all those things, I think there's a lot of opportunity and it's not to be missed. So don't sleep on a chance. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Hey, that's great advice, right? Napoli, so you're among greats.
No,
But you know, Kim, I definitely appreciate you coming through, and I'm definitely looking forward to keeping in touch with you, and hopefully working together with you in parallel to do some things here.
this is Noah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and for giving me a chance to talk about our programs. If anyone is interested in learning more, feel free to reach out. You can contact me at Parallel, or you can go to our Netacare's webpage where we talk about some of our social equity programs there. But yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Absolutely. You too. Take it easy.